beloved chosen one. Stop for a moment. Heaven itself has interrupted your scrolling, because there is something you must hear right now. You think you came here by chance, but no, this is divine timing. This is a rescue call from God's heart to yours. You are not in danger because you are weak. You are in danger because you are chosen, and the enemy fears what you are about to become. You've been feeling the weight in your chest, haven't you? The restlessness, the unease, the sudden spiritual heaviness that seems to press down on your spirit without warning. That's not anxiety, it's the sound of a heavenly alarm. The Spirit is waking you up before you lose yourself to distraction. The warfare around you intensified the moment heaven marked you for purpose. Listen carefully. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every door that slammed shut was never to destroy you. It was to position you. There are people who walked away from you not because they rejected you, but because God was protecting you from contamination. You've been walking through a season of separation, and it has felt lonely. But even in your isolation, the divine plan has been at work. The world wants to drown you in noise, endless scrolling, endless comparison, endless pressure to be someone else. But God is saying, be still. This interruption is sacred. Heaven has paused your day to tell you that you are seen. You are known. And you are in danger if you keep ignoring the small nudges of the Spirit. There are traps that do not look like traps, comfort zones, small compromises, emotional attachments that dim your discernment. The enemy doesn't need to destroy you if he can distract you. He wants you tired, numb, and disconnected from your assignment. That is why heaven sent this message right now to call you back. The Word of God declares in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your paths straight. You are a carrier of light. You cannot mix with darkness and expect peace. You have tried to fit into circles that no longer fit your spirit. That's why your peace disappears when you go where you don't belong. The hand of God is pulling you out, but you must stop resisting. It is time to rise. God's plan will not be delayed any longer. Every detour, every heartbreak, every setback was permitted to refine your faith, not destroy it. You've been asking, why me? But heaven answers, because you were built to stand when others fall. Chosen one. You were never meant to live an ordinary life. There's a holy fire inside you that terrifies darkness. But that same fire must be guarded. You cannot keep feeding your spirit with the noise of this world and expect divine clarity. Silence the distractions. Return to your first love and watch what heaven begins to unfold. Remember, this danger doesn't always look like disaster. Sometimes danger looks like comfort that keeps you from purpose. It looks like a slow drift from prayer, a little less faith, a little more self-reliance. The enemy doesn't rush. He waits until you're numb. But God is shouting through this message, wake up. My child, it's not too late. The Lord is not warning you to frighten you. He is warning you to save you. This is mercy knocking at your door. The plan of God is not hidden. It's waiting for your yes. You've delayed long enough. Step back into alignment. Return to prayer. Let the Word of God be your anchor again. You are not lost, you are being redirected. The moment you choose obedience over hesitation, heaven moves in your favor. You are not reading this by mistake. Heaven has interrupted your feed to remind you that you are still chosen, still loved, and still covered. Before you scroll away, take one prophetic action. Comment 777 below as your declaration that you are ready to align with God's plan again. Let it be your sign to heaven that you hear, you receive, and you will obey. Chosen one. The darkness that follows you is not random. It recognizes what heaven has placed within you. You have felt its presence in the moments you try to pray but feel resistance. In the nights you lie awake sensing invisible weight pressing upon your soul. You are not imagining it. The spiritual realm is real, and the battle around you is intense because your light threatens everything that hides in shadows. From the moment God marked you, the adversary began tracking you. His strategy is subtle, not open destruction, but quiet deception. He studies your weaknesses, your fears, your tendencies to doubt, and he waits for the right moment to whisper lies that sound almost true. He wants you to believe that your prayers are empty, that your calling is insignificant, that you are forgotten. But none of those words come from heaven. There are seasons when the enemy does not come with chaos, he comes with comfort. He uses distraction dressed as entertainment, temptation disguised as freedom, and connections that appear harmless but carry spiritual decay. That is why discernment is your greatest weapon now. You cannot afford to listen with your emotions, you must listen with your spirit. You have wondered why certain people suddenly turned cold, why old friendships crumbled, why familiar places now feel spiritually heavy. It is not rejection, it is revelation. God is revealing who truly stands with you and who was never meant to walk this next part of your path. Do not chase what he has already removed. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." Your discernment is being sharpened because you are approaching a divine appointment. Heaven cannot allow you to walk blind. Every shadow that lingers near you is being exposed so that you may walk in clarity. That is why your sleep has been uneasy, your spirit restless, because God is shifting your environment. When God begins to elevate a person, he first exposes the spiritual weight holding them down. You have felt like you're losing control, but what's really happening is separation between the holy and the unholy. You are being refined, purified by pressure, made aware of what no longer serves your purpose. Do not fear what is being revealed. Darkness cannot harm what belongs to God. The enemy may roar, but he cannot devour what is sealed by heaven's hand. His whispers lose power the moment you speak truth out loud. When you declare, "I belong to God," every chain that sought to bind you begins to weaken. You must understand this: light and darkness are not equal opposites. Darkness exists only where light is absent. The enemy's goal is not to destroy your light, he cannot, it is to convince you to hide it. But the moment you remember who you are, the shadows flee. Chosen one. This is why the resistance has increased. The attacks, the weariness, the confusion, it all points to the same truth: you are close to breakthrough. When you draw near to divine purpose, the enemy panics. But you have already been equipped for this. Heaven does not choose the fragile, it strengthens those it calls. Lift your head. You are not under attack because you are weak. You are under attack because you are winning. The unseen world recognizes what is rising within you before you do. And while darkness follows, remember it cannot overcome. God has already drawn the line around your soul. What belongs to him cannot be stolen. You are covered, you are guarded, and though the shadows may follow, they cannot stay. The same God who allowed this storm is the one who will bring you through it unharmed. The danger was never meant to destroy you, it was meant to awaken you. And now that you are awake, you will see clearly what once deceived you. Chosen one, everything around you seems to slow down lately, have you noticed? The pace that once kept you moving now feels heavy, as if unseen hands have pressed pause on your life. This is not failure. This is not punishment. This is heaven halting your motion so you can hear again. When heaven presses pause, it is never to waste your time. It is to realign your steps with divine purpose. You've been asking, why is nothing moving? You've prayed, fasted, and yet doors remain shut. But this silence, this waiting season, is not rejection, it's preparation. God cannot allow you to enter the next chapter with the same mindset that almost destroyed you in the last. The pause is protection. It's a holy time out where heaven whispers, rest, rebuild, and remember who you are. Sometimes divine pauses feel like confusion. You look at others moving ahead, their paths open, their dreams unfolding, while yours seem to stall. But listen carefully, your timeline was never meant to look like theirs. The anointing on your life requires a different rhythm. When others run, you are called to walk with intention. Heaven is not in a hurry with you because what you carry must last for eternity. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. There it is, the divine invitation. Rest, not as laziness, but as obedience. When God says be still, he's not suggesting stillness, he's commanding trust. It takes courage to be still when everything in you wants to move. It takes faith to stop reaching for control when heaven has already taken the wheel. This pause is the sacred space where transformation begins. What used to feed your strength now drains it because your spirit has outgrown the old diet. You are being redefined from within. God is stripping away false confidence built on your own strength so that, when he moves again, all glory returns to him. Chosen one. This pause is holy surgery. Heaven is cutting away what cannot enter the next season. Pride, fear, impatience, these cannot survive where God is taking you. The stillness you feel is the surgeon's table of grace. Don't resist it. The more you fight the pause, the longer it lasts. You keep saying, I feel stuck, but the truth is you're being rooted. And when something is rooted deeply, storms can no longer uproot it. This is what God is doing in your soul. You are learning to stand not just emotionally, but spiritually immovable. There's a subtle beauty in divine delay. The silence allows you to notice details you once ignored, the whisper of the Spirit, the patterns of grace, the subtle ways God protects you without you realizing it. He is not late. He is exact. Heaven's timing is always perfect, even when it frustrates your flesh. When heaven presses pause, it's not withholding, it's cultivating. Seeds do not grow in motion, they grow in stillness. You have been planted, not buried. The soil of obscurity is your classroom. Every hidden day, every unanswered prayer, every moment of uncertainty is shaping you into someone unstoppable. Do not misinterpret silence as absence. God is closer now than ever. He is in the pause, rearranging the details of your destiny. Soon, you'll understand why nothing worked before, because what's coming requires your full surrender, not your divided focus. The waiting season is not punishment, it's preparation for acceleration. Once heaven says move, doors will open you didn't even knock on. But until that command comes, stay still, stay pure, stay ready. Now, chosen one, before you continue, I want you to comment "I will wait" below, not as a phrase, but as a prophetic declaration that you will trust God's timing over your own. When you write those words, heaven takes note. It becomes a record that you chose faith over frustration. Chosen one, you are standing near what heaven has been trying to show you all along, the hidden trap. It does not announce itself. It does not look like danger. It wears the disguise of opportunity, the softness of comfort, the warmth of what you think you want. But deep within it lies the one intention that has always pursued you to pull you off your path. You've been sensing something strange in the atmosphere around you. Promises that appear bright at first glance begin to lose their color when you get close. Conversations that once inspired you now drain your spirit. The people who say, "I understand you," begin to speak words that make you question the call God placed inside you. That is the trap confusion dressed as understanding. It doesn't come through obvious temptation anymore. The enemy has studied you long enough to know what will not work. He no longer uses chaos to distract you. He uses imitation. Imitation peace, imitation love, imitation guidance, each designed to make you settle for less than what God promised. And when your spirit starts to accept imitation, your destiny begins to fade into the background. But heaven, in its mercy, exposes what the enemy tries to hide. God will let you feel discomfort in places that no longer carry His presence. That restlessness, that lack of peace, it is not punishment. It is divine detection. It is heaven's way of saying, this is not your path. Every time you feel that subtle spiritual unease, it's not random, it's revelation. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 20. "See, I am sending an angel ahead of you to guard you along the way and to bring you to the place I have prepared." Those words are your shield. Even when you cannot see the full picture, heaven has already positioned protection ahead of you. Angels are not distant legends, they are part of the operation of grace working in your favor. Every unseen step you take is guarded. Every wrong door that doesn't open is not rejection, it's rescue. There are traps meant to lure your attention, people whose charm hides manipulation. Opportunities that sparkle yet pull you away from prayer. Voices that sound spiritual but breathe pride. The closer you draw to divine destiny, the more subtle these snares become. This is why discernment is not optional for you, it is survival. You've learned to recognize the visible enemies. Now heaven is teaching you to detect invisible ones, the ones that wear kindness as camouflage, the ones that speak scripture yet twist it for control, the ones that offer help but secretly hope you fall. These are the traps that destroy purpose slowly, but you are being awakened to see through them. When your heart begins to crave what heaven never commanded, that's the first sign of danger. The enemy whispers, "You deserve this now." But God whispers, "Wait until I give it." One voice feeds impatience. The other builds endurance. Every test you face right now is designed to strengthen your ability to tell the difference. Chosen one, there are things that will appear harmless until you realize how much peace they cost you. That is the true measure if you have to lose your peace to keep it. It was never from God. The Holy Spirit will always leave a trace of peace behind, even in correction. But when the trap speaks, it rushes, it pressures, it demands urgency because deception cannot survive in patience. And yet even in this, grace abounds. God does not reveal the trap to shame you. He reveals it to free you. The exposure is evidence of His care. You are too important to heaven's plan to be lost in the confusion of imitation purpose. So take this moment as your warning and your comfort. You are not walking blindly. Heaven is not silent. Every whisper of discernment you've been ignoring is God's way of keeping you safe. Pay attention. The Spirit within you already knows where the danger lies. Stay close to truth. Guard your peace. And remember, if God hasn't approved it, it's not meant for you, no matter how beautiful it looks. The trap loses its power the moment you decide to wait for heaven's confirmation. Chosen one. There comes a moment when heaven sounds its trumpet not in the sky, but within the soul. You may not hear it with your ears, but you feel it deep inside. That sudden stirring, that undeniable awareness that something in you is being called to rise. That moment is now. The season of sleeping through your purpose has ended. Heaven is calling your spirit to wake up. You've been walking through fog lately, half in faith, half in fear. But the trumpet of heaven doesn't sound for the half awake. It sounds to summon the fully alive. God is saying to you, get up, shake the dust, wipe the tears. You have stayed in survival mode for too long. The wake-up trumpet is not a rebuke, it's an invitation. An invitation to see what your pain has been preparing you for. When you hear the trumpet of destiny, you cannot stay where you were. The old mindset, the familiar fear, the comfortable patterns, they all begin to crumble because divine sound cannot coexist with stagnation. The trumpet doesn't just call, it breaks. It breaks chains, breaks hesitation, breaks the silence that's kept you from praying boldly again. According to what is revealed in the book of Romans in chapter 13, verse 11, the hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. This moment is not distant, it's here. Heaven is closer than you think. Every second you remain asleep spiritually, the enemy celebrates. But every time you choose to rise, the atmosphere shifts in your favor. You were never meant to crawl through life, you were meant to run with purpose. And while heaven moves through words, it also moves through hearts like yours that carry the same light into the world. That's how this message exists, not through algorithms or chance, but through people who believe in spreading hope, light, and truth. If this message stirred your spirit, gently touch the light like this message. Each click is a spark that tells heaven, I am awake. If the words spoke life to you, share them forward like a torch passed in the dark. You never know whose night you might brighten. If you wish to keep walking this road together, subscribe not as a follower, but as a traveler who walks beside light. Every new voice strengthens this chorus of awakening. And about giving, let's speak softly here. Giving is not an obligation, it is rainfall on fertile ground. When you donate, you are not paying for words, you are watering seeds that will grow in someone else's desert. Your gift becomes the quiet echo of heaven saying, keep the trumpet sounding. Think of it this way, when you sow into light, you join the unseen hands that carry this message further. The candle that lights another does not lose its flame, it doubles its fire. Every act of generosity, no matter how small, is a ripple that reaches another weary heart. There is no pressure, only invitation. Give only if your heart stirs, not from duty but from love. The same God who called you to wake up is the one who will multiply every seed you release in faith. The world is full of noise, but few sounds awaken souls. When you like, share, subscribe, or donate, you help keep that sacred sound alive, the one that reminds people of who they are in God's eyes. Chosen one, the trumpet is still echoing. Can you feel it in your chest, that quickened heartbeat? That stirring of courage that's heaven reminding you that you're still needed, still seen, still part of this divine movement. Rise, respond, and take your place among those who refuse to sleep through destiny. Let your light move beyond the screen. Be the echo, the spark, the flame that keeps the trumpet of awakening sounding. And as the final note of heaven's trumpet fades into your heart, may it leave a quiet fire burning there. Let that flame remind you daily you are part of something eternal. Keep your spirit awake, your hands open and your heart ready, for the next call will come soon. Chosen one, the war you're feeling right now is not outside you, it's within. The true battlefield is invisible, hidden between your spirit and your flesh, your obedience and your fear. You wake up some mornings ready to pray, to trust again, to walk in purpose, and then, as the day unfolds, you feel pulled backward by unseen hands of hesitation. That tension you feel isn't weakness, it's warfare. Heaven and darkness both know the value of your surrender. You are not crazy for feeling torn in two directions. That's what happens when your destiny outgrows your old desires. The Spirit is calling you forward, but your habits, emotions, and doubts try to chain you to what you've already outlived. The battlefield within you is holy ground, and every decision you make there determines what your tomorrow will look like. The most dangerous war is not fought with weapons, it's fought with whispers. Whispers that tell you, you'll never change. You're too far gone. It's too late. But heaven answers softly. You are becoming who I made you to be. God's voice may be gentle, but it carries thunder when it speaks truth into your confusion. We find in the book of Galatians, chapter 5, verse 17. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other, so that you are not to do whatever you want. That verse isn't condemnation, it's explanation. It tells you that the tension you feel isn't proof of failure, it's proof of faith. The war inside you exists because you are no longer in agreement with darkness. Every time you choose prayer over pride, forgiveness over bitterness, patience over revenge, you win unseen battles that heaven celebrates. The enemy fears your discipline. He fears your quiet consistency more than your loud declarations. He knows that when you begin to obey even when you don't feel like it, you become unstoppable. That's why he tries to make you tired, busy, distracted, anything to keep you from remembering who you are. Chosen one, you must learn to protect your peace as a warrior guards his sword. Your mind is sacred territory. Do not let every thought take residence there. When fear knocks, answer with faith. When anxiety speaks, reminded of God's promises. You are not at the mercy of your emotions, you are a steward of them. The inner war will not always roar, it often whispers in the quiet. You'll feel it when you're tempted to give up, when your prayers feel unanswered, when your heart longs for an easier path. But every time you decide to keep believing, even in silence, heaven records your endurance as victory. Do not despise the battle inside you, it is evidence of transformation. The flesh cannot die quietly. It resists because it senses its defeat. But the Spirit within you is stronger. You are not fighting alone. The one who began this work in you will complete it. The fire within is refining you, not consuming you. The very struggle you hate may be the tool God is using to make you unshakable. Remember, diamonds are not formed in silence, they are born under pressure. That pressure you feel right now is proof that something valuable is being shaped. So when the war within becomes loud, pause, breathe, and whisper, I am not my fear. I am not my past. I am chosen. Every time you do, light fills the room again. And if you've made it this far, if these words have reached your heart and you can feel that gentle nudge of conviction, respond not to me, but to heaven's call over your life. Comment 333 below. This number is not random, it symbolizes divine alignment. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit working together on your behalf. When you type 333, you are declaring, I am in agreement with heaven's will for me. Let that be your seal of surrender, your signal to God that you choose peace over war, faith over fear, and light over darkness. Chosen one. The storm has been loud lately, hasn't it? The winds of confusion, the waves of uncertainty, the constant crashing of one challenge after another. You've tried to steady yourself, to stay strong, but deep down, You feel as if the ground beneath you keeps shifting. Yet even now, in the chaos, there is a voice, a calm, steady whisper that cuts through the noise. That voice is not imagination. It is the voice of God, speaking softly in the middle of your storm. You have prayed for peace, but peace does not always come by stopping the storm. Sometimes peace comes by speaking to you in the midst of it. Heaven doesn't always remove the waves. Sometimes it teaches you to walk on them. What you are facing is not punishment, it's preparation. The storm was never sent to drown you. It was sent to teach you to trust when your feet can't find ground. There is something sacred about the storm. It reveals what comfort hides. When everything is calm, you may think you trust God, but it's only in the storm that trust becomes real. When the wind howls, when plans collapse, when prayers seem unanswered, that's where faith begins to breathe. Faith is not built in safety, it's born in surrender. You've been asking, Lord, why can't you calm this? But God has been answering, because I'm teaching you to hear me even in the roar. You see, the voice of God does not compete with the noise, it simply exists above it. You must tune your heart, not your ears, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old. In the first book of Kings, chapter 19, verses 11 and 12. Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. That whisper is everything. The enemy shouts to intimidate you, but God whispers to draw you close. He doesn't need to yell to prove his presence, he only needs your stillness to make it known. When you quiet your thoughts, you begin to hear the rhythm of heaven again, steady, faithful, unbroken. The storm, as terrifying as it feels, is not endless. Every wave that rises must eventually fall. Every wind that screams must eventually fade. You will not be stuck here forever. Even now, the hand of God is guiding you through unseen currents, steering your path toward safety. It may not look like deliverance yet, but deliverance has already begun. Sometimes the most miraculous thing God can do is not to stop the storm, but to keep you standing in it. And look at you, you're still standing. You may be weary, bruised, and tired of fighting, but you haven't drowned. That alone is evidence that heaven has been holding you. Do you remember how sailors navigate the sea at night? They look for the North Star, the constant light that never moves. No matter how dark the sky becomes, and that's what God's voice is for you. It doesn't always remove the storm, but it gives you direction through it. If you can keep your eyes on that light, you'll find your way home. The truth is, those storms do not come to destroy the chosen. They come to expose what is eternal. They peel away false strength, false peace, false comfort until all that remains is faith. And faith, pure and refined, is stronger than any wave. So listen again. The whisper hasn't stopped. Beneath the thunder of fear, beneath the crash of disappointment, it's still there, peace. Be still. Those words are not just commands to the storm, they are medicine for your soul. Chosen one. The voice you hear in this chaos is the same voice that created light out of darkness. If it spoke the universe into being, it can certainly speak peace into your heart. The storm is loud, but heaven is louder still if only you choose to listen. Chosen one. There is a line few ever see until it's too late, the invisible border between mercy and consequence. You stand before it now, and heaven, in its love, has slowed your steps so that you do not cross it unaware. This is the moment when God's patience is still extended, when his hand still reaches, when his voice still warns, come back before it costs you more than you can bear. You have been walking through a field of choices, some sown in light, others watered in shadow. Every decision carries a seed, and each seed grows something: life or loss, peace or regret. The cost of disobedience is rarely immediate. It hides in delay. It appears harmless at first, like a small crack in glass. But over time, it spreads until everything once whole begins to shatter. Heaven's warning does not come to shame you, but to save you. God is not cruel. He is kind enough to interrupt you before destruction takes root. The danger of ignoring His voice is not simply punishment, it's blindness. When the heart grows numb to conviction, sin no longer looks dangerous. It starts to look reasonable. That's when mercy must speak louder than comfort. You may think, "But I've failed before, surely grace will find me again." And yes, grace is abundant, deeper than you can imagine. But grace is not permission, it is invitation. It calls you higher, out of the mud, back into holiness. When grace is rejected repeatedly, it eventually stands back and lets the consequences teach what disobedience refused to learn. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 19. "I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live." This verse is not a threat, it is a map. God has never hidden the truth from you. He sets before you two paths and allows you to choose because love demands freedom. He will not chain you to obedience. He will draw you toward it. And when you walk toward Him, even with trembling steps, the chains begin to fall. But if you continue walking the path that numbs your spirit, you'll begin to notice how quiet heaven feels. Not because God has abandoned you, but because He refuses to compete with what you've chosen to idolize. The silence you fear is not distance, it's respect. God respects your choice enough to let you walk it, even if it leads to pain. Yet even then, mercy lingers at the edges, one whisper of repentance, one turn of the heart, and the Father runs to meet you again. He has never stopped waiting, never stopped hoping that you would remember who you are. You are not meant for halfway living. You were born for holiness, for power, for alignment with the eternal. Disobedience is not always rebellion, it's often forgetfulness. You forget who you are, forget who He is, forget how close heaven really is. That's why God sends reminders like this, not to condemn, but to awaken. The cost of disobedience isn't just external, it's internal. It's the slow fading of your peace, the dimming of your light, the dull ache of knowing you've settled for less than what was promised. But hope still stands. The Father never issues warnings without a door of return. Even now, that door is open before you. Step through it. The moment you choose obedience again, heaven rushes in to restore what you thought was lost forever. Do not waste your pain. Let it teach you reverence. Do not hide your failures. Let them humble you. Every scar from disobedience can still become a testimony of restoration if you surrender it. Chosen one, the cost of ignoring God's voice will always be greater than the cost of obeying it. And the beauty of obedience is that it never ends in loss. When you choose His way, even your detours become destiny. Heaven is not finished with you. The warning is not the end. It is the beginning of wisdom. Choose life again. Choose light again. The road back to grace is shorter than you think. It begins the moment you decide to turn. Chosen one. This is where everything begins to shift, the place where heaven writes your name in fire and calls it covenant. You've walked through shadows, stood through storms, endured the silence of God and the noise of men. But now, the voice of the Almighty rises again to remind you His promise was never broken, only delayed until your heart was ready to carry it. Every true covenant costs something. God never seals a promise with convenience. He seals it with surrender. That is why your journey has been so intense, because heaven was preparing to renew the contract written over your destiny. Every tear, every battle, every lonely night, they were drops of oil poured upon your altar. You didn't lose those moments. They became your offering. The covenant of fire is not symbolic, it is living. It burns away what cannot stay, but it never consumes what belongs to God. Fire purifies gold, and you, chosen one, are the gold. Heaven has been refining. That's why the heat in your life has been turned up, not to destroy you, but to reveal the brilliance hidden beneath the ashes. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, 2nd book, chapter 4, verse 7. But we have this treasure in jars of clay to show that this all-surpassing power is from God and not from us. That treasure is what the covenant protects. You may feel fragile, but within you lies divine power. The enemy sees it even when you don't. That's why his attacks feel personal, because they are. He doesn't waste fire on what doesn't threaten him. The flames around you are confirmation that heaven has chosen you to carry something eternal. The covenant of fire demands one thing: obedience through trust. You cannot hold the promise and the past at the same time. One will always burn the other. This is why God has been asking you to release what feels safe but stagnant. You cannot carry old wounds into a new anointing. Fire doesn't tolerate mixture, it separates what's holy from what's temporary. Chosen one, it's time to stop running from the heat. The very thing you fear might be the thing that frees you. Step into the refining. Let the flames finish their work. You won't be burned. You'll be branded with purpose. Those who walk through divine fire do not come out empty-handed. They come out glowing with the evidence of heaven's hand. Think of Moses before the burning bush, flames all around, yet nothing consumed. That is the mystery of divine fire. It destroys only what is false. You are standing before your own burning bush right now. God is not asking for perfection. He is asking for recognition. Recognize His presence in your pain, His purpose in your pressure. That's where the covenant is sealed. The moment you surrender to the fire, heaven breathes again on your destiny. Your eyes will begin to see differently. What once felt like endings will reveal themselves as beginnings. You'll understand that God never forgot you. He was purifying you for the very thing He promised. Chosen one, this covenant means you can never go back to normal. The fire marks you as His, and from this moment forward, everything ordinary must bow to the extraordinary within you. You are being prepared not just to survive, but to carry fire wherever you go, to heal, to speak, to ignite others who have forgotten how to burn for God. And now, if your heart feels that burning, if your spirit recognizes the fire calling your name, respond in one simple way. Comment, "I am ready," not as empty words, but as your covenant echo, your agreement with heaven, that you will no longer run from what was meant to refine you. When you type those 3 words, you're not responding to a message, you're responding to destiny. You are saying, "God, if this fire is yours, let it finish its work in me." And heaven, seeing your surrender, begins to fan the flame, not to consume you, but to crown you. Chosen one, there comes a moment when heaven decides that the sound of chains is no longer part of your story. You've been walking with invisible weights, guilt, worry, exhaustion, and they've made even your victories feel heavy. But today, the air shifts. Heaven is saying, "Enough." What once imprisoned you is about to become the very sound of your freedom. The breaking of chains isn't loud like thunder, it's quiet, almost sacred. It's the moment your heart exhales and your spirit whispers, I don't have to carry this anymore. It's not the kind of freedom that shouts, it's the kind that glows. The kind that lets you stand taller, breathe deeper, and walk lighter because the burden you've held so long has finally let go. You've carried things you were never meant to carry. Some were placed on you by others, and some you picked up along the way, thinking they made you strong. But strength is not in how much you endure. It's in how much you release. There is divine courage in letting go. As written in the book of Psalms, chapter 146, verse 7, the Lord sets prisoners free. The Lord gives sight to the blind. The Lord lifts up those who are bowed down. You see, the breaking of chains doesn't happen by effort, it happens by encounter. It's not your willpower that shatters the locks. It's the presence of God brushing against your heart until what held you no longer fits. And when it happens, you'll realize the miracle was never about escape, it was about becoming. Freedom changes the sound of your soul. You start to laugh without remembering pain. You start to pray without begging. You start to believe without proof. And suddenly, your heart remembers what it means to be alive again. Chosen one. There are people who will hear your story one day and realize they can be free too. But for that to happen, you must first open your hands. Let the chains fall. You don't need to prove your worth anymore, you need only receive His grace. When you breathe this truth in, something holy stirs. You feel lighter not because everything is perfect, but because you've stopped fighting the one who's trying to heal you. God's freedom doesn't erase your past, it transforms it into wisdom, into oil for others still walking through fire. Now, if these words have touched that silent ache in your spirit, take a moment to pause. Let gratitude rise, because messages like these messages that find you in your storm and remind you of your light exist only because hearts like yours keep them alive. Every gesture of love is like a ripple of freedom. When you like this message, you're saying, I choose light. When you share it, you're extending the key to someone else's prison. When you subscribe, you're joining a family of souls who refuse to live asleep. And about giving, hear this gently. Giving is not a transaction, it's an echo. It's the way your gratitude becomes movement. Just as rivers never drink their own water, your generosity flows outward, reaching hearts you'll never meet but heaven already knows. If you feel led, if something inside you whispers that this message should keep shining for others, then donate as freely as you breathe. Think of it as releasing one more chain, this time from someone else. Your offering becomes the oil that keeps the flame burning, the seed that ensures the next chosen one hears their name too. There's no pressure here, only presence. You give not because you must, but because you can. That's what true freedom looks like: open hands, open hearts, open flow. So walk lighter tonight. Chosen one. Let every step sound like the breaking of old chains and the beginning of a new song. You are free, and now your freedom becomes someone else's reminder that miracles still move quietly through willing hearts. Chosen one. Now that the chains have fallen, the air feels different around you, doesn't it? Lighter, clearer, like creation itself has exhaled. This is not just relief, this is the awakening of your assignment. The moment freedom entered your life, purpose followed it like dawn follows night. For every soul heaven liberates, there is always a reason, a mission wrapped inside the miracle. You are not simply free, you are now commissioned. The time for hiding is over. God did not remove your chains so you could sit in silence. He broke them so your steps could carry light into the shadows where others still wait. You've been trained by tears, sharpened by storms, humbled by delay. None of it was wasted. Every scar became a language your spirit now speaks fluently: compassion. Every wound turned into a door that lets heaven move through you to reach those who think they are beyond reach. It was proclaimed in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 5, verse 14. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. That is what you are now, light. Not a candle flickering in uncertainty, but a city unshakable, visible, purposeful. You carry something divine within you, something darkness cannot comprehend. But remember, this light does not exist for its own comfort. It exists to reveal the path for others. You are not just surviving anymore, you are guiding. The assignment of light is not always glamorous. It will demand quiet strength when no one is watching. You will love people who cannot love you back, forgive those who will never apologize, and serve in places where gratitude may never return. But the secret power of light is that it never negotiates with darkness, it simply shines. Your consistency will preach louder than your words ever could. There will be days when the weight of the calling feels too heavy. You'll question, why me? Lord, why now? But the truth is, your light was designed for this exact hour. Darkness has increased in the world, but that's not a reason to fear, it's the reason you were sent. Light shines best when night is deep. The enemy will try to dim you through discouragement. He will whisper, you're not ready, you're not enough, you're not perfect. But light doesn't have to be flawless, it only needs to be willing. The moment you decide to show up, even trembling, heaven multiplies your glow. God doesn't wait for you to feel ready. He moves when you say yes. Chosen one. To carry light is to carry responsibility. People will be drawn to your warmth but may not understand your source. That's okay. You don't have to explain your glow, you just have to stay connected to it. Stay close to the presence that kindled it in the first place. Prayer is not a ritual anymore. It's your recharge. The word is not instruction, it's oxygen. Without that connection, even the brightest flame begins to flicker. As you move forward, remember your assignment is not about crowds or stages. It's about moments, one soul at a time. It's the stranger who suddenly feels seen because of your kindness, the friend who regains hope because you refuse to give up on them. The quiet prayer whispered over someone who doesn't even know you interceded. Those are the victories heaven celebrates. Sometimes your light will feel small, especially when the darkness seems overwhelming. But darkness has never won a single battle against light. Even the smallest flame pierces the void. Never underestimate what God can do with one obedient heart. There is something else you must know. Light is both gentle and fierce. It warms, but it also exposes. As you carry it, some will be drawn to you, and others will retreat because your presence reminds them of what they've avoided. Don't take it personally. The purpose of light is not to be accepted, it is to reveal truth. Walk with humility, but also with boldness. You are not meant to blend in, you are meant to stand out like sunrise after the longest night. The world doesn't need imitation, it needs authenticity. And your light was handcrafted for this generation. So rise, chosen one. The same fire that freed you now fuels your mission. Wherever you step, shadows will scatter. Speak life, bring warmth, carry peace, and never forget you are heaven's answer to someone else's darkness. Chosen one. Destiny has a way of arriving quietly, never in thunder, but in alignment. You can feel it now, can't you? That sense that something unseen is shifting, that the chaos which once surrounded you is beginning to make sense. Heaven is rearranging things in your favor, not because of luck, but because you finally stopped fighting divine timing. You have wrestled with surrender. You've tried to make your own plans, force open doors, and understand every delay. Yet through it all, God's plan remains steady, waiting for the moment your heart would soften enough to say, "Have your way." The moment you did, something powerful happened. What was once resistance became direction. Every divine turning point begins with surrender. Not the kind that feels like defeat, but the kind that feels like exhale. It's when you finally release what was never yours to control. It's the still moment between heartbreak and hope, where heaven whispers, "Now I can move." The ancient words recorded in Proverbs of chapter 16, verse 9, declare in their hearts humans plan their course, but the Lord establishes their steps. That truth isn't just comforting, it's freeing. You don't have to know every detail, you only have to trust the one who does. God has been weaving a story that includes even your detours, even your delays. The wrong turns were never wasted, they became part of the map that leads you back to purpose. You've wondered why certain opportunities slipped through your fingers, why prayers seemed unanswered, why people you cared for had to leave. But what if every no you received was actually heaven's redirection towards something better? What if the silence wasn't rejection but divine editing? Sometimes God removes chapters that don't serve the ending He wrote for you. You are standing in a holy transition. What once drained you no longer attracts you. What once terrified you no longer controls you. The scales are falling from your eyes, and you're beginning to see not just where you were, but where you're meant to go. At this turning point, obedience becomes your compass, Bamad. When God says move, you won't hesitate this time. When He says wait, you'll understand it's not delay, it's design. You're learning to trust without trembling, to follow without demanding proof. That is spiritual maturity, when faith stops being an emotion and becomes a decision. There's a quiet strength in those who let God lead. Their peace confuses the enemy because storms no longer make them panic, they make them pray. You are becoming that kind of person. The fire that once burned you now fuels you. The pain that once silenced you now teaches you how to speak with compassion. Everything that tried to break you has become the material heaven is using to build you. And now, in this sacred turning, heaven releases its next instruction. It's simple but powerful. It's not about striving, it's about agreeing. You have walked through the furnace, and the heat has purified your heart. Now comes the moment of realignment, spirit, mind, and purpose coming into oneness with the will of God. This is the prophetic moment where heaven writes your yes into the earth. What happens next depends on how you respond. Will you keep looking back, or will you step fully into alignment? If you can feel this word pulling at you, that gentle stirring in your chest that says, "This is for me," then act on it now. Comment 4444 below. This number carries the meaning of divine order and stability. It symbolizes heaven bringing structure where there was chaos, clarity where there was confusion, and peace where there was panic. When you type 404, you're not just leaving a number, you're agreeing with heaven's order over your life. It's your way of saying, "Lord, establish my steps. I trust your timing. I surrender to your design." This is your turning point. Chosen one. The wait is ending. The way is opening. Heaven is aligning everything in your favor because you finally aligned with heaven. Chosen one. There is a strange silence before every great revealing, the quiet breath between the question and the answer. That's where you stand now, in the sacred middle, where heaven examines the heart and asks, "Will you still trust me when nothing makes sense?" The testing of the chosen is not punishment. It is purification. It separates those who want the promise from those who are willing to carry it. You have prayed for elevation, but elevation always comes wrapped in examination. Every higher place has thinner air, less comfort, more clarity. That's why the pressure has increased. It's not because you are failing. It's because you are being refined to breathe at a greater height. God will not send you into new dimensions with untested faith. He loves you too much to let your calling collapse under the weight of what's coming. There are moments when testing feels cruel. The silence feels endless. The prayers echo without reply. The blessings you expected seem delayed. But remember, silence is not absence. It's assessment. Heaven is watching how you respond when applause fades and answers hide. It is in the silence that your loyalty speaks loudest. When God tests the chosen, He does not ask for perfection. He asks for endurance. He asks, "Can you still worship me in the waiting? Can you still honor me when the door remains closed?" These are the questions that forge warriors out of wanderers. And though it hurts, the testing is the proof that you are trusted. As the prophet Jeremiah wrote, chapter 17, verse 10, "I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind, to reward each person according to their conduct, according to what their deeds deserve." Those words are both weight and comfort. Heaven is not guessing who you are, it is revealing it. Every trial is a mirror, showing you not your weakness, but your potential. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every hidden tear is a thread in the tapestry of your becoming. Chosen one, testing does not come to expose what is broken, it comes to prove what is unbreakable. You've already been through storms that should have ended you, yet here you are still standing, still believing. That is not luck, that is evidence. You are being shaped by invisible hands for visible glory. Think of how gold is purified. It's not polished, it's burned. Fire doesn't destroy gold, it reveals it. Every flame you've walked through has been heaven's way of saying, you are more valuable than you realize. And the longer the refining, the purer the reflection. Soon, when heaven looks at you, it will see its own image shining back. There's something holy about pain endured in silence. It becomes a language that only the refined can speak. That's why not everyone can understand you anymore. You're speaking from a realm they haven't reached yet. Don't let loneliness convince you you're lost. It's often the language of those heaven has set apart. You've been walking through nights where light feels far away, but even stars need darkness to shine. That's you, the light that trials couldn't dim. The test didn't come to remove your light. It came to reveal its strength. And now, heaven leans close. The test is almost over. You're stepping out of the furnace, carrying both fire and fragrance, the mark of those who have been with God. You will not come out empty. Every delay was a deposit, every wound a seed. What felt like loss was actually multiplication in disguise. When people see you next, they won't just see survival, they'll see transformation. The testing season taught you patience, purified your motives, and rewired your heart to listen before you move. You no longer chase doors, you discern them. You no longer seek platforms, you seek presence. This is the quiet beauty of being tested by God. You emerge no longer defined by outcomes, but by obedience. That is where real authority begins. Chosen one, the fire did not destroy you because it was never meant to. It was meant to reveal that you were fire all along. Chosen one, as the refining fire settles and the smoke begins to lift, you can finally see what all the testing was preparing you for. The atmosphere feels heavier now, not from confusion, but from clarity. You've entered the war for your future. This is not the battle for your salvation, that was already won. This is the battle for your focus, your endurance, and your promise. You are standing on the edge of fulfillment. The enemy knows it, and that is why resistance has grown more strategic, more personal, more relentless. When breakthrough draws near, the war always intensifies. The closer you get to your promise, the louder the voices of fear become. But listen carefully, fear is only a shadow. It has form, but no substance. It looks like power, but it carries none. You are not fighting for victory, you are fighting from victory. Heaven has already written the end of this story. The battle you're facing is not to determine whether you will win. It's to determine whether you will keep believing you've already won. The enemy cannot steal what is sealed, but he can make you doubt what is already yours. You've been feeling the heaviness lately, the exhaustion that comes from fighting invisible things, and it's not just emotion, it's spiritual warfare. The fatigue you feel is not because you're weak, but because your spirit has been on the front lines. You've been interceding, standing, resisting, and though the world sees nothing, heaven sees everything. As it is written in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 10, verses 3 and 4. For though we walk in the flesh, we do not wage war as the world does. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. That verse is not metaphor, it's strategy. Your prayers are not whispers into the void. They are weapons forged in eternity. Every time you choose peace over panic, forgiveness over fury, truth over silence, you strike a blow against the darkness that wanted to swallow your destiny. The war for your future is fought through obedience, not argument. There will be moments when the conflict feels endless. You'll feel the weight of weariness pressing down, whispering that it would be easier to quit, to stop caring, to settle for less. But remember, this quitting may silence the noise for a moment, but it kills the sound of your purpose forever. And rest if you must, but never surrender. You have to understand, chosen one, that the enemy doesn't fear your talent, he fears your persistence. Anyone can start, few endure. You've already proven that you won't break under pressure, and that makes you dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. The war for your future is not just about you. It's about every soul your obedience will impact. This is why the attacks have been so personal. The enemy can't touch your salvation, so he targets your confidence. He tries to rewrite your identity with lies, to make you forget the authority you carry. That's why you must guard your mind like sacred ground. Every doubt that enters unchecked becomes a seed of defeat, uprooted before it grows roots. You are heaven's soldier, but also heaven's child. The war may rage around you, but peace is your birthright. You do not have to live exhausted fighting in your own strength. The true warrior's power is not in constant striving, but in divine surrender, knowing when to fight and when to rest under the shadow of the Almighty. There will come a moment soon when the fog will lift and you'll realize the war was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken you. You've learned how to stand, not through motivation, but through revelation. You've learned that worship is a weapon, that gratitude confuses the enemy, and that silence in prayer can shake more ground than 1,000 words shouted in fear. Chosen one, this is not the end of your battle, it's the turning point. You are being trained for greater ground, greater authority, greater peace. Do not despise the war, it's building muscles that comfort never could. Every night you refuse to give up, every prayer you whispered through tears, every time you chose faith over feeling, those moments are written in heaven's record as victories. And soon, you'll see what all this was for. The war was not proof of weakness, it was the prophecy of your strength. Chosen one. The battle has been fierce, but the sound of victory is beginning to echo in your spirit. The weight that once pressed on your chest is lighter now. The storm that once surrounded you no longer dictates your peace. Something within you has shifted, you can feel it. The crown you once only dreamed of now waits quietly, shimmering in the distance, calling your name. The journey has been long. You've walked through deserts that taught you endurance, valleys that taught you prayer, and mountains that taught you humility. Each tear watered the ground beneath your feet. And now, that ground begins to bloom. Heaven whispers, it's time. The season of striving ends, the season of reigning begins, Mano. But the crown you are about to wear is not a trophy, it's testimony. You see, the crown isn't made of gold or jewels, it's woven from obedience, resilience, and faith. Every yes you gave when no one understood became another thread of glory in its design. Every time you refused to curse your waiting, another gem was set into it. This crown is not a reward for perfection, it's the mark of those who never stopped believing. As written in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 8. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. That is the promise, chosen one. The crown awaits, but it is not given in silence, it is received with surrender. You cannot wear pride and purpose at the same time. So bow first, and then rise crowned. That's the rhythm of heaven, humility before honor. And when you rise, something holy happens. Others will see the light dancing on your head and feel a stirring inside their own hearts. That's the true purpose of the crown, not to shine for attention, but to reflect glory. You will become living proof that endurance births beauty, that faith finishes what fear tried to end. If these words have found you, if they feel like an echo of something heaven already whispered in your sleep, then pause with me. Take a deep breath. You are standing at the threshold of purpose fulfilled. And now, if your heart feels it, let it respond in love. Every time you like this message, imagine it as lifting your candle high on a hill, telling heaven, I'm still burning. When you share it, see it as passing your flame to someone still wandering through their midnight. And if a phrase here spoke directly to your heart, write it below. Let your words become petals in a garden of light for others to read. Comments are not noise, they're echoes of faith, ripples of testimony that keep this message alive long after it ends. When you subscribe, don't do it out of habit, do it as a covenant. It's your way of saying, I'll walk with this light, I'll keep my fire alive. Each new heart that joins this journey becomes another lantern along heaven's road. And about giving, hear me softly here. Giving is the quiet language of the grateful. It's the whisper of those who have seen light and want it to keep shining. When you donate, you're not buying blessings, you're planting gardens. Gardens that will grow in places your feet may never walk, but your faith will. Think of every seed you sow as a feather on a crown. Every act of generosity as a note in heaven's symphony of gratitude. You are not required to give, you are invited to. True giving is never forced, it flows, like a river that has found its purpose in nourishing life beyond itself. And if you choose to give, whether it's your time, your words, your prayer, or your offering, know that it is not lost. It becomes light, carried forward to awaken another chosen one still searching for their dawn. This is what it means to wear the crown, to become a vessel of light, a keeper of the flame. You reign not with pride but with peace, not with authority but with love. You were not chosen to rule others, you were chosen to restore them. So lift your head, chosen one. The war is ending. The fire within you has become gold. The sound you hear is heaven placing your crown upon your spirit, whispering, well done. And as that light settles over you, let your heart remain open, generous, and kind, because those who wear heaven's crown carry heaven's heart. Chosen one, you were never meant to walk this path alone. All through your journey, through fire, through silence, through shadow, heaven was preparing not only you, but others like you. The remnant, those who carry the same mark of light, the same hunger for truth, the same fire that refuses to die. This is the hour when heaven gathers its warriors, not to compete, but to unite. You are not just an individual calling, you are part of a divine collective. The world has long celebrated isolation as strength, but the kingdom calls it weakness. Even the brightest flame burns out if kept apart. That is why God is drawing his chosen ones together, each a torch, each a voice, each a heartbeat of heaven's purpose. Alone, you flicker; together, you become a wildfire. There is something extraordinary about those who have survived the refining. Their eyes carry depth, their words carry weight. You can recognize them without introductions. You feel their spirit before they speak, the same way you recognize the scent of rain before it falls. The remnant knows pain, but they also know presence. They have been through enough to stop pretending, and now they burn only for truth. You may not have met them yet, but they exist in cities, in deserts, in quiet corners of the earth. Some are rebuilding churches, others are healing hearts, one conversation at a time. Some speak from platforms, others from hospital beds. But they all carry the same sound, the pulse of heaven's heartbeat, the rhythm of awakening. As was spoken in the book of Joel, chapter 2, verse 7. They charge like warriors, they scale walls like soldiers. Each marches straight ahead. They do not swerve from their path. That's the image of the remnant, disciplined, fearless, and unstoppable. They march not for fame, not for power, but for purpose. Their steps are guided by unseen command, their unity forged not by agreement, but by spirit. They don't need to look the same or sound the same, because what binds them is deeper than appearance, it's fire. Chosen one, you are part of this march. Every prayer you whispered in secret was a drumbeat in heaven's army. Every time you resisted compromise, you stood as a pillar of light. The world may never recognize your name, but heaven knows your voice. You've been trained in hidden places for this exact moment, to rise alongside others who carry the same holy DNA. And here's the beauty of the remnant: they do not gather to boast about their strength, but to exchange oil. When one grows dim, another shares their flame. When one falls weary, another lifts their arms. This is the design of divine community. Iron sharpening iron, faith feeding faith, love sustaining love. Unity in the kingdom is not uniformity, it's harmony, like instruments in an orchestra. Each carries a unique sound, but when they play together under heaven's direction, the result is power wrapped in peace. That's what's happening now across the world. Heaven is conducting, and the chosen are tuning their hearts to the same frequency. You may feel small in the grand design, but remember, stars look tiny from Earth. Yet from heaven's view, they shape constellations. That's what the remnant is, a constellation of souls aligned by purpose, forming light patterns that guide others through darkness. But with unity comes responsibility. The remnant must protect their purity, gossip, envy, pride. These are small cracks that can collapse a fortress if left unattended. You are called to rise above offense, to forgive quickly, to love fiercely. You are not soldiers against each other. You are soldiers for eternity. In this hour, God is gathering the builders, the ones who see ruin and choose restoration, the ones who hear despair and choose to sing hope louder, the ones who would rather serve quietly than shine loudly. You, chosen one, are one of them. Your endurance has qualified you for this army of light. Walk humbly among the remnant, but know your worth within it. You are a voice among many, yet your frequency matters. When you speak truth, heaven harmonizes with you. When you walk in obedience, the ground itself seems to listen. The march has begun, and your step is part of its rhythm. Lift your eyes, chosen one. Look around, not at the chaos, but at the quiet rising of God's people. They are here. You are one of them. The remnant moves not in fear, but in certainty. Not to survive, but to restore. This is your tribe, your calling, your moment. Heaven is on the move, and you are moving with it. Chosen one. The story comes full circle here. What began as a cry in the dark now ends in the light of understanding. You have walked through danger, through doubt, through divine interruption, and now you stand beneath the calm sky of purpose fulfilled. Heaven has pulled you from the brink not just to save you, but to send you. You were never meant to simply survive the storm. You were meant to carry wisdom from it. You can look back now and see it clearly. Every season had meaning. The nights that nearly broke you, the silence that scared you, the waiting that stretched you, all of it was part of the design. What once looked like chaos now reveals itself as choreography. God's hand never left you, not even for a heartbeat. He was writing redemption in the margins of every mistake, weaving mercy through every moment that felt wasted. This is the eternal rescue plan, not a one-time act of deliverance, but an ongoing invitation to walk with heaven daily. God did not just pull you out of danger. He positioned you into destiny. His plan was never just to protect you, it was to prepare you, to purify you, to empower you so that you could become the kind of person who rescues others. The ancient words of the psalmist echo this truth from the book of Psalms, chapter 40, verse 2. He lifted me out of the slimy pit, out of the mud and mire. He set my feet on a rock and gave me a firm place to stand. That is your story. Chosen one. You were lifted so that you could lift. You were healed so that you could heal. You were found so that you could find others who have forgotten the sound of hope. This is not the end of your journey, it's the beginning of your assignment. The beauty of divine rescue is that it leaves no trace of captivity. The places that once held you no longer recognize your scent. You are free, and freedom changes everything: your words, your walk, your way of seeing. Where you once saw obstacles, you now see opportunity. Where you once saw despair, you now see destiny. Heaven's plan for you was never small. You are not a background story in the kingdom. You are a living letter of grace. The danger you survived was the training ground for the authority you now carry. You speak differently because you've been there. You understand pain deeply, and that understanding has become your superpower. You are proof that God still interrupts destruction with purpose. You are also proof that mercy doesn't tire. Even when you strayed, even when you hesitated, even when you doubted, mercy chased you down. It refused to let you vanish into your own confusion. And now that you have returned, heaven rejoices not because you were perfect, but because you said yes. Chosen one. Every moment of rescue carries responsibility. Grace received must become grace given. You are now the outstretched hand for someone else's storm. The same light that guided you here will shine through you to guide others. That's how heaven works. Redemption multiplies. You are no longer the one who trembles in the dark. You are the torchbearer. Your words will become pathways, your presence a sanctuary. People will not know why they feel peace around you, but it will be because heaven has made its home in your composure. You will speak less and affect more, because your life itself has become a sermon. And when the next wave of danger rises in this world, and you will not panic. You will remember. You will stand as one who has seen too much of God's faithfulness to fear the unknown again. You will move with quiet authority, calm in chaos, steady under pressure. That is what it means to live under the eternal rescue plan, not the absence of trouble, but the assurance of purpose through it. You are no longer running for safety, you are walking in assignment. The same God who pulled you out will pull others through you. Heaven's plan has always been bigger than survival. It's about transformation. You have become a living witness that divine intervention is real, that danger bows to destiny, that every pit can become a platform when grace gets involved. Look up now, chosen one. The horizon stretches before you, golden with promise. You are free, but more than that, you are sent. Walk boldly, speak gently, love fiercely, and never forget the same hand that saved you still holds you, always. Chosen one. If these words have walked beside you, if you felt heaven breathe through them, then pause for a heartbeat. Let gratitude fill the space between your breaths. You have reached the end of this message, but not the end of your story. What has been awakened here is meant to continue moving, glowing, living through you. And now, before you go, let your heart respond in quiet ways that ripple outward. When you like this message, think of it as lighting a single lantern on a hill. Its glow may seem small, but someone, somewhere in darkness, might see it and find their way home. When you share, see it as releasing a dove into the sky carrying hope beyond what your hands can touch. You'll never know whose storm it might enter, or whose tears it might dry. But heaven does. When you comment, let it be your echo in this sacred space. Your words, whether they're a whisper of thanks or a line of truth, become threads that weave hearts together. Someone may stumble upon your sentence and feel less alone. When you subscribe, think of it as building a bridge, stone by stone, across the waters of time. It's not about numbers, it's about connection, about staying close to a voice that reminds you of light when the world grows dim. And lastly, if your spirit stirs to give, let it be gentle, joyful, free. Giving is not payment, it's participation. It's the rain that keeps this garden alive, the breath that carries the next message to another soul in need. Thank you for walking this path of light. May your hands stay open, your spirit stay soft, and your heart forever stay ready to carry the next spark of heaven's fire forward.